All right. Chapter 4, we start to do forecasting, meaning you project a number from available data. You project what is going to happen another 3 months, another 6 months, another year. Okay. So in this chapter, we're going to look at forecasting in the supply chain management. Then we look at what is the component for the forecasting demand. And we will look at time series method, all these things lah. All right, there are some calculation. I don't think today we're able to touch on the calculation, but maybe our next class. Then we look at how to fine tune our forecasting. It is forecast accuracy. You fine tune and then find what is the area, what is the error, plus minus how many days or plus minus how many weeks. Okay, regression method is another method to do forecasting. Okay, so basically there are two main topic in this chapter 4, time series method and regression method. Okay, so these are another two, and I like to ask question when those questions that come with calculation. Okay, so when it comes to time series or regression methods or forecasting accuracy, then you need to pay a little bit attention, right? Okay, so let's start chapter 4. Let's go for a little bit introduction on the terms that we're going to use, so that when you do calculation later on, you're familiar what the concept on all these terms. Okay, first, when you talk about forecast, what does it mean? Forecast is a prediction, right? What is going to happen in the future based on the available evidence, right? Forecast is something that you do prediction or prediction based on your available data. It's not something that you imagine. It's not something from the imagination, but there is a scientific way to do prediction, right? So forecast is a prediction. Second technical word or some phrase that you see in chapter 4 is qualitative forecast method. There are two types. One is qualitative, one is quantitative. Qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is a very subjective methods. For example, it's more, what I mean by subjective? It means it is based on experience. It is based on experience. Let me give you an example. For example, you're the one who live nearby a seaport, right, or jetty, right? If your house is nearby a jetty, in your daily life, you see jetty come and go, come and go. You, without any looking at the schedule, you know by what time the fisherman will come back, or the ferry will go out to send customer to a nearby island. All right. So subjective means it's based on experience. It's based on your use, your experience, based on experience. The keyword is experience. It's very subjective to individual to individuals. All right. Normally for qualitative methods, they referring to expert in that particular area. For example, some niche area. Something that you are not commonly exposed to. For example, if you want to know, later I'll give you one example. But if you're using qualitative, means you are referring to expert advisors. Second one, quantitative is the method that we use normally when we do engineering courses, or when you go out there and perform as an engineer. You base on models, you base on formula. Okay, so quantitative is based on analysis, something that you can calculate, something that you can project in the graph and come up with numbers. Then it becomes quantitative. Okay, qualitative is something that you describe through experience what is going to happen. Okay. So-called, if you're in the stock market, so-called, if your qualitative forecast method means sometimes they refer to those guru in the investment. Sometimes they refer to Warren Buffett latest comment. Then they go for qualitative, right? But this module we will focus very heavily on quantitative forecast method. Yeah? Why we focus on this one? Because the available software out there, because when you go to work, your boss cannot wait you to do calculation anymore. Those big company, they will purchase software that use all these fundamental quantitative equation to do projection for you. Okay, but you have to learn the basic first. You have to know the fundamentals. What is the concept they use to project all these beautiful graph to your customer or even to your colleagues. Okay, so we have two types. We have two types methods for forecasting, qualitative and quantitative. Next, we talk about supply chain management. Yeah. So we are going to strategy roles of forecasting in supply chain management. All right. So let's look at supply chain management definition. So this diagram will tell you what is supply chain. Okay, this diagram itself tell you what is supply chain. Supply chain, it consists of activity from producing the products until the product sent to the customer. From one end to another end. Supply chain is the activities that involve from raw material until the products in the hand of customer. Okay, this is the explanation, but the concept is from the raw material until the hand of the customers, until sometimes is until the end life of the disposal of the products. Okay, it's called supply chain. Okay, so from this diagram here, you know the illustration here. You go for a farm, you get the raw material. The raw material transfer to a storehouse, a store area, and then the supplier of the stockkeepers will sell the raw material to the factory. The factory will produce the products and then send through logistic services. So logistic company will send the products to another warehouse. So another warehouse will do packaging and do sorting and go into the customer's selling point. The customer will pay for the items. The customer use the items and dispose the item, and we call it end of life of the services. Okay, so this is the concept of supply chain. Next, we look at another explanation. So these are the activities that involve in the supply chain. All right. So this is all the things that you see in this diagram. It explains everything. So that includes purchasing, inventory, production, scheduling, transportation, and distribution. Okay. Now back to the forecasting definition, or what can forecasting do or impact the supply chain? Okay, what is the effort, or what is the role of doing forecasting in the supply chain? Or how can it impact your supply chain if you don't have a good forecasting? Okay, so forecast, it means determine how much your inventory need, how much to purchase, how much to produce, when, how many times you need to do the products means scheduling. Where you need to send the item means involve delivery, involve time also. So transportation and distribution. Okay, so forecasting is to determine how much, especially time or item. Okay, time and item or numbers or unit to satisfy customer needs. Okay, the whole forecasting objective is to meet customer needs so that your product can sell to your customers and your customer can remember you and you get a recycle or repetitive sales. This is the function of forecasting and the importance of forecasting in supply chain management. So there's a reason why they pay very high money to those very, very good forecaster or those project manager that can do very accurate forecasting. All right. So those project management manager, they have a very high salary because they know how to do a very good calculation and determine the future of the company, right? Okay, so this diagram a little bit blur maybe on your side. So this diagram show you how bad if you have what is the effect if you have a very bad forecasting in the supply chain. So let's say we start from the middle. You as a forecaster or the one who give the data to fit into the supply chain system. If the forecast, you have two scenarios. One is over forecast, meaning you too optimistic. You tell your supplier we're going to sell, let's say a normal sales is normal reference sales unit maybe 1,000. But you're very optimistic. You tell your forecast to your customer, say we're going to sell 3,000 next month. Okay. If you have a very bad forecasting and you over forecast, what will it relate to? The factory that you order, they will manufacture more than they should, and they will send the goods to the storekeeper. The storekeepers or inventory will increase. You need more space to store the item. And then when it keep too long, sometimes the product, we talk about food products, the food cannot store too long and it spoil, you need to dispose them. So some losses there. And then when it comes to grocery store or distribution point, then there will be a piling of inventory also. So store there, nobody, customer cannot, customer do not buy in a very high volume, then the stock will keep there in the storeroom. And you know that if you talk about food item, there's an expiry date because of the Food Safety Act. So they need to sometime when you will see like those big shopping mall or big distribution point, they will have factory sales because sometimes they over forecast and they need to clear the stocks in their house, in their stock, in their storeroom, in their inventory because of the expiry date. Okay, it's also one of the, you can say that they sometimes it's also one indication of a bad forecasting also. Okay, what happens if it's under forecast? Under forecast means the value that you do cannot catch up with the customer demand. So if you're under forecast, the factory will produce less than it should. So what happened to the inventory? The inventory will have less available stock to distribute to the customer. That's why sometimes, excuse me, sometimes when you buy stock online or on online purchase, online e-commerce, the seller will tell you, apologize, sorry, we cannot send you this stock because no stock in the inventory. You have to wait how long, right? 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It will cause delay to your customers. And I believe nobody like to wait. So you're going to lose some of your customers because very bad forecasting. Okay. Let me get some water. Okay, so this tell you how important is forecasting. Let's watch a video on the importance of forecasting. This is one of the big guy in Boeing company. Boeing, they are producing aircraft, and we know that airlines actually they are fighting with each other, fighting sales. Fighting sales. Boeing actually is a competitor of GE engines or GE General Motor company that produce the aircraft also. So let's look at what this MD or office CEO about forecasting.
Today we're releasing our 2021 Boeing market outlook and are already seeing signs of industry recovery. Over the next 10 years, we see a $9 trillion aerospace market across commercial, defense, and services sectors. And that's an increase from our 2020 market outlook and our pre-pandemic forecast. What's driving that? Our commercial market outlook shows that the recovery is playing out largely as we projected in 2020. Domestic markets are leading the way, followed by international and long-haul markets, which will recover as travel restrictions ease. We're seeing sustained demand for air cargo, with the expanding e-commerce market and the speed and reliability of air freight. We do this forecast to provide insights on the dynamic aviation market. We hope to provide valuable context about the market for our industry.
Okay, so this video was launched in September, which is I think not long ago. So you see, even we are at a post-pandemic, cannot say post-pandemic, but we're still in the pandemics. But during this time, September, Boeing still doing forecasting, still doing forecasting and distribute the forecasting information to their suppliers, right? Just to stand by what will happen in the post-COVID sales and all this. Okay, so actually in the industry, they always have forecasting doing it, right? So let's go back to the supply chain management. In the supply chain management, because the change is so drastic and dynamic, it's a dynamic market. So expect forecasting you always do in a continuous manner. All right. So there are some strategies to solve or to handle the dynamic market. All right. So under continuous replenishment, meaning continue to update the data they have to do forecastings, right, and share with the customers. So there are a few strategies done by the supply chain systems. It can be the seller or the main developer and so on. So these are the four: quick response, JIT or just in time, vendor managed inventory, VMI, stockless inventory. So these are the strategies they use to control or keep up with the customer needs. Okay, right. But this is the, when you work in industry, you'll come out across this one. Okay, just for info, I won't ask you this one in test or exam. Huh? Okay. We go into quality management. So what happened to, what is the role of forecasting in quality management? Okay, so just now is supply chain, right? Supply chain management. What happened to forecasting in quality? How you control the quality? Okay, so forecasting customer demand is a key to providing good quality services. Right, here is about services. So as you can see, I show you the bad cycle of a bad forecasting. Either you over forecast or under forecast. It will affect your quality of services, especially when you under forecast. Your customer not able to get the products in time. When you over forecast, it will increase your company operation costs, right? So for example, you need to hold a loss of stock in the market. You need to rent the cargo space just to hold the stock. And even worse if you're in the food industry with the expiry date. So you cannot use the item or the food anymore after the expiry date. So you will make losses to the company. Yeah? So one example is McDonald's. All right. So McDonald's, they have a very good quality management using forecasting system also. So they won't, one of the things that you observe, they won't let you wait quite long in the queue. From the minute you stand there until you get the food, in very short times, right? They have done the statistics there, okay? Right, so they even improve the services with kiosk services, and even with the mobile apps. You can order your mobile apps before you walk into the restaurant, okay? So these are the things that McDonald's, this brand, is using the forecasting skill or tools to help them to improve their quality services. Okay. And one evidence that you can find is that in some area, you can find that the manager is quite good. They can even predict what you're going to order in the lunchtime hours. So they will ask their kitchen staff to prepare that particular set of meal for the customers. That's why this is one of the strategies. If you have a good forecasting skill, you're able to help your employee reduce the frustration and also the customer also, right? So this is the McDonald's system where they have a server to do the scheduling, how they do the stock keeping, the stockist system, and how they manage the food production. Okay, so these are the flow chart, not in detail, but you can see behind the McDonald's brand, actually they invest a lot of money in their quality management system, from distribution point until the products in your hand. Okay, one of the tools is forecasting, right? Forecasting tools. They collect data through their suppliers in their supply chain from the raw material until they send the burger to their customers. Next, we look at strategic planning. What mean by strategic planning and what the strategic planning main goal or main objective? Strategic planning is to determine the company future. What is the direction that the company want to focus on? For example, what the market they want to compete in. what is the next new products they want to launch, okay, or what is their current successful products. Okay, so I take McDonald's as an example. McDonald's have launched a lot of set of menu throughout the years, and some of the products no longer available at this moment of time, where they launched maybe 5 years ago or 10 years ago, right? So they already done the analysis, right? The products is no longer a favorite to the local customers, all right? All right. So this is what strategy planning is to do, is determine the company future plan or future move. Okay. What they need to know in strategy planning, what is the new product they need to launch, how much they need to produce, what level of quality they need to add on into their services or their products. Now, to try to relate strategy planning with automotive industry. Okay, with automotive industry, you can name any brand out there. So automotive industry producer, they yearly, their research and development teams and even their managers out there, they are trying to launch new products almost every year or every season. Okay, more drastic example is handphone developer or handphone manufacturer. No matter what brand, they are also doing strategic planning. They know when they are planning when to launch the new products, how much to produce, when to launch it, and what level of quality that the current customer demanding. What are the competitor offering? So this is what they do when they do strategic planning. Okay, what are the new products, how much they need to produce, and what are the quality that they want to offer to customers. Okay, I'm going to show you one video about strategic planning. This video is a CEO, if not mistaken, is a CEO or high rank officer from Heineken. All right. Apologize for those who don't drink alcohol, but watch this video in terms of management level. In a management perspective, how they manage their products and inventory in the supply chain. Okay, what are the challenges they have as a seller or as a producer, food producer, right? Okay, let's watch.
Oh, Sarah, that's an interesting question. Many things keep me up at night. If you look at some of the things that I've been, thinking about in the past, say, years, is really as a company we try to give a fantastic experience to our consumers and customers. Beer has been around for thousands of years, and we need to keep on innovating in the space of beer. And one of the things that's really a trend for us now is how do we enter into the digital age? And as you know, beer is quite a heavy product, and we need to secure also then what we call the last mile logistics for some of the services that we want to bring into e-commerce. I think one of the big challenges that we see in last mile logistics is, of course, to get the right service to our consumers or to the customers. So, for instance, in the consumer space, it's about getting a delivery of something that is quite heavy, and it needs to be done at a certain time when the consumer is at home. And we also, of course, have to take care of age, because we have to make sure that the people who order and buy our products and receive them have to be compliant with the legal drinking age. There's several of them. So one of the things that we find extremely interesting is how do you group various products that goes into consumer space, but also return logistics, because we see that return logistics is something that is really going to evolve much more in the future. At least we think so, and it's going to be very important for us when we enter more into a direct relationship with consumers and customers.
Okay, so we have looked into how the strategic plannings of big companies, what is their strategies on meeting the customers' demands. So from the video just now, you see how a drink company, they aware of the regulation, and even that video, the videos was done in 2017. If you see at the beginning of the video, they show that the interview was done in 2017, even before the pandemics happens. They already foresee e-commerce is one of their strategies to penetrate the market. Right? Just now the officer mentioned about e-commerce, the platforms, how they sell their drinks to the user and so on. Okay, you watch the time. Okay, let's go for a few more slides, then we call it a day. Right? Okay, we have done with the strategic role and for what is the role of our forecastings, and some introduction on the technical wording that we use for forecastings. So these are all the videos that I show you will be the scenario that we will see in your test or final exam, the scenario that we will see in our calculation later on. Okay. Now we look at components of forecastings demand. We talked about the word demand here. So we're going to forecast what is demand. Okay. So a few methods here, all right, and methods depends on several factors. I give you all the answer. So there are 3. So when you do forecastings and you choose the type of the methods, so for this module we look at 2 methods. One is time related one, and that one is a linear regression or regression methods. We have 2 big methods here. Okay, so we will consider a few factors when you choose a different methods here. First, the time frame of our forecast. How long we want to forecast. If you want to, whether we want to focus within a short times, 1 week, 2 weeks, or just within 6 month times, all right? Or we want to forecast another longer year, for example, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. From the time frame that you set for your forecast, you use different methods, different forecasting methods. We'll learn a few methods here. So later when we go into calculation, you will see all these methods different from the time you decide your time frame. Okay, so first you look at the time frame or the time slot that you do calculation. Second, you look at behavior of the demand. Okay, the behavior of the demand. So later we'll see a few charts on the pattern of the demand and what causes them to behave in such a way. Okay, later I'll show you a few graphs, a demand trend. So there will be some causes or reason why they behave in that way. Second, there is a possible assistance of patterns. In some on designing what method to use, sometimes you look at the patterns, the trend, or seasonal. All right, either you look at the trend. If you have a trend in your data, you use formula that able to capture the trend. If the data shows seasonal behavior, then you use seasonal treatment or seasonal equation to treat the data for forecasting. So trend have their own equation to do forecasting. Seasonal also have one or two equation. I think it's one in my preparation. So I seen one, one equation to do seasonal data. So these are the three main factor that determine which equation to use, or which equation to use to solve that particular forecastings. Okay, so we look at time frame, behavior of the demand, and patterns. Okay, time frame, behavior, of course, with the reason, but the keyword still behavior, and the patterns. Pattern here, we look at trend and whether it's seasonal and so on. Later, I will show you the graph of the patterns. So under time frame, you had two main family. Under time frame, you will do short to mean forecast, short to mid range forecast, or another category you fall under a long range forecast. So long range forecast means more than 2 years by definition. Okay, what I mean by long range forecast means you're doing something more than 2 years. Okay, so if you're given a table, you look at the table. If the unit is years, then most high chances you need to use long range forecast method. Okay, so here short to mid range forecast, it can be from daily to up to 2 years. So again, you look at the table data that I give you to do analysis. If the data unit is daily, and the maximum time frame inside the data maybe only 1 year, from January to December, that one fall under short to mid range forecastings. Okay, so this is how you differentiate short to long. Long means more than 2 years. And the rest is just example. So short one, normally for production, right? This is more in the industry application. So where does people do short to mid-range forecast? Normally related to delivery or production, because delivery you need to receive the parcel in a very short time. Okay, so production also. So one of the example is your HP friend. HP friend, they do monthly forecast. Okay, they do monthly forecast for their printers. Although the printers, some printer, they takes up to a year to produce. So they do monthly forecast and then they construct for the 1 year ahead. They see what we're going to, what is their sales in next year. They use monthly forecast data to see what will happen next year. Practiced by HP. Okay, this one, the forecastings in the manufacturing plant, normally they done by the planners. There's a position called planners, so they will plan for forecast. Another brand, I think most guys will familiar, your jeans, right? So this company, LV, they do weekly forecast. They do weekly forecast and prepare for 5 years into the futures. They keep very, very tight monitoring up to weekly forecast. So every week they see their sales, they monitor their sales throughout the globe, and they decide what they try to look for a trend or if any changes of the customer preference, and then they design something that can sustain for 5 years later. Okay, so these are the two examples. One is HP, monthly forecast. They look for the next year, forecast used for the next year projection for their printer production. Another for your jeans brand. So this company, they use weekly forecast. They prepared for 5 years ahead. Okay, means they're really serious in the business. They really want to be one of the top brand, and they always keep up with the customers, right? Let's look at long range. What are the example? So all this you can read, right? So what are the long range application? When does your boss will normally ask you to do long range forecast? All this. Either you want to build a new facilities, a new manufacturing plant in somewhere. So normally when you need to build a facilities, a new plant, then it fall under long range. Do you want to develop a new technologies? For example, the chip and all this, right? The computer chips and all these technologies, automotive cars, and the technologies that are related to. Yeah. One of the brand here is Unisys. Unisys maybe is not familiar at civilian level, but if you're in the technology IT sector, this company, they are doing security services, means all the website security. Unisys is one of the top player in that area. Okay, so like the security of the web browser and all this. So companies, if you do e-commerce, very high chances you will know this name, right? So they do long range strategies. They forecast 3 years into the futures. Okay. Another one is a car manufacturer, Fiat. There are lots of brands, but I choose Fiat. So Fiat is one of the automotive, and they even go to 10 years in the future. Okay, they look into the future cars, future technologies, any battery technologies. So you can see that in their companies board meetings or in their business announcement, most of them they will talk about something happen in the futures, right? Okay. This is just a side note, is that classification between the short and long, normally there's no one numbers to quantify, but you can separate into two main family. One is long forecast, long range forecast, and mid or short forecast. Because it depends on industry sometimes, and also we are moving in a very fast-paced society. All right, technology is improving, so the way we behave, the way we buy things, the buying patterns also different. So there's no one numbers to tell whether it's a long or short, but 2 years is a very good number to start with. Okay, what about behavior demand? Now, behavior demands, you have 3 types. You have trends, cycle, and seasonal patterns. As a forecaster in the future, this is fundamentals is important that help you to do forecasting, because you can see graph from the data. You will see these 4 types of graph. Mainly is 1, 2, and 3. Okay, 1, 2, and 3, and this one I will explain. Okay, you have this graph on your tutorial handouts, right? So the top one here is you have trends. Okay, you have trends. Second one, you have a cycle. Third one, you have a seasonal pattern. Seasonal means you'll see something jump, the sales will jump at a certain cycle of time. Same volume, but you see the sales jump after a certain time. Or you can link with the season, 4 seasons, winter, summer, and so on. So you link this one, you will see in the clothing industry, especially for the winter sales. Winter clothing company, you will see their sales like that. Okay, because after the winter season, you won't buy winter clothes in the summer, right? So the drop will go back to normal. And then when it comes to winter time, the sales will up. This one is a mixture of either these three. Okay, so there's another type of graph. This is one of it. It's a mixture between these three. Yeah? So here you see trends, cycle, and seasonal pattern here. Okay, let's look at individual graph. Then we call it a day. Okay. First one, you look at the first one, we call it trend. So you see a trend here. The trend is going up, right? In general, you can see that the trend is going up. Although they are up and down, up and down, up and down, right? And there's 2 points, we call it random movement. But anyway, in general, if you plot graph, you can see that the trend is going up. Demand versus time, the demand is going up as you increase the time. Definition for trend: gradual long-term up or down movement or demand. Sometimes you can get down, sometimes you can get up. This is the up, going up movement. But sometimes you can have a trend that is going down. Okay. So first type, trend definition: gradual, long-term, up or down, movement or demand. We are talking about demand pattern now. Demand pattern. Example is houses. It can always go up. All right. Demand for houses always going up. This one is based on international argument. I mean international observation throughout the globe. So this will be the first graph that you go through when you do forecasting. This will be the first graph that you go to, or this will be the first pattern that you look for. Do you seeing a increasing or decreasing trend when you do forecasting later on? You will see 2 points where it's suddenly down and then go back, and this one suddenly go up and then go back. This is called random variation. Random variation, they do not follow a certain pattern, meaning you don't know when this certain drop will happen. You don't know when this certain up will happen. Okay, there's no pattern throughout the data that you have. Okay. Random variation. For example, the one that we face in Malaysia right now, the local flood will cause momentarily the increase in the carpet demand, for example, okay, or furniture demand, or there's some jump of the sales of your automotive accessory because of the flood, right? So some cars you need to overhaul because of the flood. Houses, maybe electronics will suddenly jump because of the flood, right? All the TVs and all the electronics was gone because of the flood. So you will see a certain jump of the sales and then go back after certain months. After 2 months or 3 months, it will gone, and it will continue with the other pattern or trend that you see. Okay, so this is the terms that you see in forecasting. Trend, under trend, inside the trend graph, you will see a random variation or random movement. Okay, and the reason that contribute to this random peak here is because of the sudden changes of the scenario. For example, flood and all this. Next one, we look at cycle graph. Demand versus time, and you see the cycle, 1 cycle, 2 cycle, 3 cycle. Cycle means there is a up, down again, and then go up again, go up, go down again. You will see this one is called cycle. Okay. So what is cycle definition? Up and down repetitive movement in demand. We are talking about demand pattern now, yeah? Up and down, repetitive is repeat, up and down, up and down, up and down. Example will be automotive sales, and also the winter sport every 4 years of Olympic games. If you are in the winter sport equipment, you will see that your sales will behave in a cycle pattern. Okay, every winter or every times in near to Olympics, the sales will go up and then you go down again. So every 4 years you go to peak. Every 4 years you go to peak and go down. It's called cycle. All right. So another one is called seasonal. Now, what is the difference between cycle and seasonal? You see the shape of the graph, eh? Cycle, go up, down, go up, down. This one, you are seeing peak rather than a curve, then followed by a curve, followed by a curve. This one is a peak, then waiting period, peak, then waiting period. It's called season pattern. So it means it's a up and down, but in the periodic manner. Okay, in a periodic manner. Example will be weather-related activities or season. For example, winter clothes. 1 year you have only one winter time. Okay, or 1 year you only have, for example, incoming Christmas celebration. Right. So the sales of the Christmas tree will peak every when it's near to December. You see there's a peak of Christmas tree sales and so on. It's called seasonal. Okay. This one, season pattern also can observe on the restaurant, food restaurant, even shopping malls, right, on the weekend. So if you're in the restaurant, maybe you have the peak during every lunch hour. Every lunch hour, customer demand go up and subside to the next day, near to lunch again, you will go up and subside and so on. Okay. Or any shopping malls or any tourist holidays spot, the sales at the tourist spot at the weekend, it will jump from Saturday, Sunday, and then go down again. And then next week, Friday, start to pick up, Saturday, and then go down again and repeat next week. This is called seasonal. Right? Very different from cycle. Cycle means there's no stop time on. It's go up, go down, and then you start to pick up. Up, down, then start to pick up. There's no flat time on. Okay, seasonal is a periodic behavior. The next one is the one that I say that there's a mixture between the 3 types of graph just now. This one is a mixture of trend and season pattern. We know that trend is going up, right? Trend is going up. However, because you see the 2 peaks that repeat after a certain period of time, right? After certain period of time. So this one is a combination of trend and seasonal pattern. Okay, so you should able to tell if I give you cycle and trend pattern. Huh? If you see a cycle and trend, what does it look like? Cycle means going up or going down, right? trend means going up or going down, and you combine with cycle, it means you'll see like that, like that, like that, like that. Okay, or up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, like that. Okay. Okay. All right, so we stop here. We will continue our next class. Yeah. Let me stop the recording.